So, welcome, friends. We'll take up very important aspect of food management in Indian economy. In the previous class, as you are aware, we are talking about agri marketing and various facets of our agri marketing, including the electronic national agriculture market, right? So let's now move on to the food management. Yes, we are producing a record tonnage of food grains. As I said, over 300 million tons in this year. But then, friends, how are you managing this? Food management becomes very, very important on a variety of reasons because it is not just the production and marketing. We need to ensure the proper delivery of food to the people. Then it is also important that we will try to have adequate buffer stocks for the requirement to meet any emergency requirements. So let us see now what are the most important aspects of food management as we speak today, the latest things that are being done. Friends, as we speak, as per the details that are given in the latest economic survey, now strategic reserves of 5 million tons of food grains to our existing buffer stock norms are being maintained to meet any eventuality. Then, friends, we have a challenge in the form of COVID-19 pandemic, right? In the COVID-19 pandemic, I don't know how many of you are aware, we have Atmanirbhar package and also, of course, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Under Atmanirbhar package, government made allocation of free food grain, at the rate of 5 kgs per person during 2 months, May and June 2020. These are very important for the preliminary exam point of view also. Whatever measures that are taken, especially during COVID times, to alleviate the problems could be asked in the prelims also this year. Okay. So friends, during May and June, if we are able to give distribution of 5 kgs, of wheat and rye per person per 2 months, this has also benefited nearly 8 crore migrant laborers. Okay. The issue is that because we are able to maintain buffer stocks, it was possible to take up this kind of measures. That's a very, very important point you need to remember. Then, friends, we also have another interesting aspect of food management. In fact, there are two aspects to speak. We have one nation, one ration card scheme. This is very, very important as integrated management of public distribution system. This is actually extended. The validity of this scheme was extended, which is already ongoing, was extended up to March 2022. Another very important point for the prelims, please take a note. The integrated management of public distribution system, IMPDS. IMPDS is actually, extended up to 31st March 2022. Now, the main objective of this is actually to introduce nationwide portability of ration card, which is a very, very important point. You have to remember the nationwide portability of ration card, so that if you are having a ration card and unable to stay in the place where you got it registered because of the problems like COVID, you can as well use it in any place that is possible. Okay, this the facility is seamlessly available now. One nation, one ration card facility is seamlessly available now as we speak in 32 states and union territories. This has 69 crore beneficiaries. Please take a note. This has 69 crore beneficiaries, which is 86% of total population covered by National Food Security Act, NFSA 2013. So friends, in the food management in the context of COVID, one nation, one ration card scheme becomes very, very important. And I do expect some questions in the preliminary also in this regard. In fact, you can also expect a question on how government was able to manage the food management during the COVID. What was the impact of COVID on food management and what are the measures taken? Anyway, as we discussed, we'll know all these COVID related aspects. But friends, as we speak now, in the food management, the maintenance of 5 million tons of strategic reserves, food grain reserves is one important point. Similarly, the sale of wheat and rice is also facilitated through open market sales scheme, domestic, it is called OMSSD. See, the reason for ensuring open market sale of food grains through OMSS domestic, it is called OMSSD, is to control the food price inflation. Because we do have buffer stock, so FCI can easily sell the food grains as well as, if required, PDS, TPDS, which was introduced in 1997, TPDS, which was introduced in 1997, can also chip in. So this, open market sales scheme, OMSSD, is very, very important because FCI has a target of selling 150,000 metric tons of wheat by FCI. So this is obviously to ensure the availability at an affordable price. Of course, I also wrote there, the OMSS, but you were pleased that the here, and you can add one nation, one ration card scheme, the validity of which has been extended up to March 31st March 2022. Okay, of course, I already told you the beneficiaries that there are 69 crore of beneficiaries covering 86% of NFSA, National Food Security Act 2013 coverage. So these are some key current important developments in food management. Friends, allocation of food grains as we speak today is basically done through the National Food Security Act, NFSA, and of course Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, which is also very, very important because this central pool of food grain buffer reserves will be used to do this. Of course, the channel is for the delivery of this food grains is TPDS, Targeted Public Distribution System, by the fair price shops and all that. Okay, so friends, it is in this context that we need to take stock of situation on National Food Security Act. Then, of course, we also go to other topics like the reforms, FCA reforms and all that. But friends, I am sure, I hope you are reading newspapers. As we speak now, in the last 1 week or 10 days or since the economic survey has been out, one of the key debatable aspects is, should we take a relook at National Food Security Act 2013? Actually, when National Food Security Act was introduced, One of the provisions was that we will review National Food Security Act after 3 years. What are the norms? What are the coverage norms? What are the allocation and all that were supposed to have been reviewed after 3 years. Of course, as we all know, this has not been done. Now, the most important aspect for NFSA, you can expect two ways of questions in NFSA as far as mains are concerned this year. Okay, we are expecting notification anyway. So, at the same time, even mains, there could be two questions. What are the main provisions of NFSA, National Food Security Act, and what could be the changes, or what could be the proposal for change of NFSC? That is also a very, very important point you need to remember. This can be clubbed as two questions, as a single question also. So we need to get complete perspective on what actually is the essence of NFSA that is being implemented today, now, and what are the changes that are proposed. And Niti Aayog has been given the task of suggesting changes in NFSA. So friends, let me share some screen with you to get you some clear points on this instead of writing on the board. So friends, NFSA had definitely made a lot of news when it was introduced. Okay. Now basically, let us try to understand briefly what are the main aspects of NFSA, key points of NFSA. Then we'll try to see what are the changes that are being proposed and whether it is good or bad and all that. You may get even questions like, do you think NFSA would require changes or critically examine the provisions of National Food Security Act, like that? And of course, which of the following, the prelims, if you see, which of the following statements are correct with reference to NFSA 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. This is how prelims will be confusing. So friends, this combination point questions require, conceptual clarity. What actually is the NFSC? So friends, let me start with the basics. As I have been saying, NFSA, National Food Security Act 2013, it's a very important thing because it was a paradigm shift in the approach to food security, from welfare to rights-based approach. See, welfare always has an issue. Okay. Welfare may be done or may not be done, but when you see the issue of, say, some programs, it may be delivered to you, but it is not obligation, it is not mandatory, it's not your right to go for a welfare based scheme. Now, for example, we are saying that during the months of May and June, free distribution of rice has been done to help people who are suffering from problems because of COVID. Now, that's a welfare scheme. It's not a right. You cannot demand that, it should be continued July and all the other areas. But then, friends, the National Food Security Act, it legally entitles 75% of rural population in India. Remember this, National Food Security Act legally entitles 75% of population and 50% of population in rural and urban areas for receiving food through subsidized scheme. You can't deny this. This has to be ensured. So that is the beauty of National Food Security Act. So it's a paradigm shift, as I said. It's a paradigm shift from, say, the welfare-based approach to rights-based approach. See, if there is a question on NFSA, I request you to use these words. Why it is important? It is important because of rights-based entitlement and approach. 75% of rural population and 50% of urban population are supposed to receive subsidized food grains under TPDS. So friends, as I said, this is being implemented in all states and union territories. Now, out of the maximum coverage from 2013, when the act was enacted, till today, out of maximum coverage of 81.35 crore, now 80 crore persons have already been covered. So we are just nearing the target in covering the population under NFSA. Friends, the identification is a continuous process. So always there are problems, weeding out of fake and ineligible candidates or beneficiaries, duplicate ration cards, and exclusion on account of death and all that are also very, very important. So it's not just a one-time event, it's an ongoing process. Now we are saying it's the legal entitlement for population to receive subsidized food grains through TPDS. Now, what is the entitlement? They are entitled to receive food grains at a subsidized price of 3 rupees per kg. Of course, this is rice, and 2 rupees per kg of wheat, and coarse grain at 1 rupee per kg. Okay, so remember this. This could be asked in the prelims as a basic thing. Now, what are the legal entitlement of people covered under NFSA? What are the price? Rice at 3 kg, wheat at 2 kg, and coarse grain at 1 kg. Okay, these are called CIP. Remember this. The word CIP, the abbreviation is Central Issue Prices. Okay, so the other issues are updating the population coverage and all that. Now, who are the eligible people under NFSA Act? Now, Section 3 of the Act uses the term eligible households, comprises 2 categories. One is priority households, families covered by Antyodaya Anna Yojana, AAY scheme. Now, these are entitled to receive 5 kgs of food grains per persons per month. And, the AAY households are entitled for 35 kg per month, under Schedule 1 of the Act. So, friends, the government has been implementing this. As I said, the deemed date of coming this act into effect is July 5th, 2013. So, if you are saying that it is supposed to be revised as per the act after 3 years, we have the revision date for the act in 2016, July 5th. 3 years will be completed. But friends, it has not been done. And recently, as I said, there has been, in the economic survey also, there has been a proposal to revise or take a relook at the norms of National Food Security Act. And of course, Niti Aayog has also been saying that it has to be revised. And of course, the task of doing it as a think tank for the government, an economic think tank for the government, it was Niti Aayog's task to look into this. Okay, so let us see what kind of revision is being proposed. Okay, now the point is, the extent we have already covered, right? The census 2011 figures say 81.35 crore persons are to be covered. And of course, as I said, we have already 80 crore persons who are being covered. Okay, so the number of beneficiaries 81.5 crore was decided or frozen in 2013. Now, given the population increase from 2000, because the census was 2011 census, right? So, given the increase in population, it is always required that we need to look into that. What kind of population has to be covered now? So, that's a very, very key point you need to remember. Then, now what is the proposal of Niti Aayog as far as the revision of these things are concerned? Now, Niti Aayog had a discussion paper. The discussion paper, it says that the national rural and urban coverage should now be reduced. Okay. Now, what is the coverage? I said rural, we have 75, and urban, we have 50. So, it is proposed, it has been proposed by Niti Aayog in the discussion paper that it should be made to 60 and 40%. Okay. So, if this is implemented, friends, listen, if this is implemented, the total number of beneficiaries will come down or drop down from 81.5 crore to 71.62 crore on the basis of projected population in 2020. Okay. Now, obviously, it's an act, right? It has to be amended. If this has to be done, the government will have to amend subsection 2 of section 3 of NFSA. Don't get confused. The acts will be like this only, because the beneficiaries is covered in subsection 2 of section 3 of NFSA. And of course, this has to be done by parliamentary approval. And friends, today already there are a lot of noise about agri reforms and all that. So we are not sure when this is going to happen, but definitely you can expect a question on NFSA, and when there, because it is in the news. When there is a question on NFSA, you will necessarily have to touch, after mentioning what are the key points, you will definitely have to touch what are the proposal for changes. Okay. There is also, the discussions are being held not only at Niti Aayog, but we have Chief Economic Advisor on Ministry of the Statistics and Program Implementation. Okay. This is being reviewed. So, friends, if this is revised, what is going to be the implication for the center and state? Now, Niti Aayog discussion paper says a whopping 47,229 crore can be saved by the center. Okay, remember this. The center will definitely save almost 47 or over 47,000 crore expenditure on implementation of NFSA. Now, rural-urban coverage ratio, if at all it is at 75 to 50, then the total number of people covered, will also be there. So, the estimation by Niti Aayog is based on projected 2020 population, and according to the discussion paper, while the government can save on the issue, okay, while the government can save on the issue, if the rural on the thing, if it is brought down, the rural urban coverage ratio remains at 75-50. Okay, but population will increase, right? When the population will increase, the existing beneficiaries will go up to 89.52 crore. Okay, so almost 8.17 crore will increase because 75% of rural is different in 2011 census from 2020 census, right? Sorry, 2021 census. So that is how the difference comes. So subsidy requirement, if we look into projected 2020 population, according to the discussion paper, will actually result in an additional subsidy of 14,800 crore. So friends, the most important thing I would like to say is that if we actually look at the NFSA, it is a very, very key instrument in ensuring food management in the country as we speak today. And of course, the other aspect of National Food Security Act, as per today's happenings, is that even Economic Survey talks about it, the latest economic survey, so that becomes all the more important for our exam, for prelims as well as mains. So this I would like to take a note. So friends, moving away from NFSA, let us now look at other aspects of food management and distribution. Okay, that would involve what kind of reforms that are being taken in Food Corporation of India, which is playing a very key role in food procurement and distribution as well as food management. Food Corporation of India reforms are also very important aspect that you can expect some questions on this. Let me again tell you some key developments in this. Of course, this is an happening issue because last 4 or 5 years, there were lot of reforms taken up in food management, in especially Food Corporation of India's management. Friends, there was a committee that is called Shantakumar Committee. It was on the basis of Shantakumar Committee recommendations that a lot of reforms have been initiated in Food Corporation of India. Let me share some points in this. So of course, these are being implemented now. Some of them, most of them are actually implemented. So these are distribution reforms. This come under food management or distribution reforms, or more precisely Food Corporation of India reforms. So friends, now FCI is playing a key role in MSP, in food management and distribution. So there was a high-level committee, with Shantakumar as chairman and 6 members to look into various ways and means in which Food Corporation of India can be reformed. Now, friends, why is it that there was a need for reforms in Food Corporation of India? Friends, FCA was set up in 1965 under Food Corporation Act of 1964. This also you remember. Sometimes some traditional questions may come up, though it's very unlikely that they will ask when Food Corporation of India is set up. Sometimes in the key areas we can't predict. Okay. Now, why was Food Corporation of India was significant? Because it was set up in the backdrop of major shortage of food grains in India, especially wheat in the country. We did discuss the Green Revolution and the food shortage, PL 480 program, because the imports, wheat imports were as high as 6 to 7 million tons, when country's wheat production was just 10 to 12 million tons. We had a shortage of wheat production at the time. So, keeping in view, we have a host of reforms. We have Food Price Commission. We have seen 1965. Then, Agricultural Prices Commission was also constituted. on the basis of its recommendations in 1965. We did talk about it. Then we do have FCI, which is very, very important in the whole food sector management. It was created with three basic objectives: to provide effective support to farmers, to procure and supply of grains for public distribution system, for distributing subsidized staples to economically vulnerable sections of the society. See, generally objectives will be in the same jargon will be there, but you can write your own words if you remember the essence. Then the third mandate for FCI is to keep a strategic reserve to stabilize market for basic food grains. So these are the three objectives. Given the importance of Food Corporation of India, given the fact that there are reforms being underway or reforms currently underway in Food Corporation of India, what are the main mandate or objective of Food Corporation of India could also be asked in the preliminary. So I request you to remember these three objectives of Food Corporation of India. What is the mandate? Basic objectives: to provide effective support to farmers, to procure and supply grains to public distribution system, for distributing subsidized staples for people, and of course especially vulnerable sections. Then the next important aspect is we also need to have a strategic reserve. These are very, very important objectives, definitely, for Food Corporation of India and the nation. But friends, after almost 50 years, in 2015, 65 it was set up, 35 plus 15. After 50 years of Food Corporation, it was important to see what kind of effect the Food Corporation of India was making. In fact, the Shantakumar committee has some data. Interestingly, if you see procurement of food grains by Food Corporation of India are actually very limited. It is surprising. In fact, it surprised many experts and agricultural economists. If we have rice and paddy and wheat, rice or wheat, the total number of farmers, if you see, those who actually sold to any procurement agency was only 13.5% and 16.2%. So what is this? So if that is the case, is procurement by Food Corporation of India was so indispensable? What are the changes we can suggest into the management organization of Food Corporation? It is in this context that the Shantakumar committee had made some recommendations. Let me tell you the key recommendations of the committee. Basically, see, if you anyway, I will share the notes with you, obviously. So if you see, HLC is nothing but high level committee. Now to be simple, the Shantakumar committee recommended that FCI hand over all procurement operations of wheat, paddy and rice to states that have gained sufficient experience. For example, Andhra Pradesh, then there was no Telangana by that time when this commission was reporting. So Telangana was there, but it did not figure out. 2014 it was there, and Telangana was there, and 2015 the report came, but the data was old. That's why it was used Andhra Pradesh, but it would also mean Telangana. The states like Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Punjab, they have made a lot of experience. So why can't we use them? Why can't we use their ability to procure? Then we do have the MSP policy. It was also suggested. I'm only giving out the key recommendations, which you can write in the exam. The MSP policy was also told to be revised. MSP are announced for 23 commodities, but effectively price support operates primarily in wheat, rice, and that too in selected states. So there are skewed intensive structures in favor of wheat and rice. but the country needs pulses, and oil seeds. So why can't we have a MSP-led encouragement route to pulses and oil seeds? That is also one important point that the Shantakumar committee had actually made. Then it had also certain other issues such as management of labor in Food Corporation of India, because you see there are a lot of delays in loading and unloading of the stocks. When any Food Corporation of India godowns, you see there will be huge pile up of trucks. You might be traveling in train or bus, then definitely would come across the FCI godowns. You see a lot of trucks waiting in huge queues, serpentine queues. The reason is labor availability is a challenge. Okay, and it also, the fourth important point is Shantakumar committee or panel has also suggested that we should have a reduction in buffer stocks, because the buffer stock norms were fixed long back. Now in the in the changed context of having a record food production, is it required that we'll have so much buffer stocks? Management of these buffer stocks and sharing them has become a burden and cost burden for the government. Instead, if you use this to be sold through open market sales scheme, it can actually bring down food price inflation. These are some of the important suggestions, friends, that have been brought in by Shantakumar committee, and of course some of them are being implemented now. FCI is in the process of undergoing change. So tomorrow I will just in the next class I will just talk about some other aspects of food management, the allocation of food grains, and we'll also talk about food subsidy and storage issues. Then we'll move on to other aspects. Okay, thanks for being with me. See you.